Hi there and welcome back to Dairy-Free Cooking with Chef Bob Sargent. That's me. Today we're gonna do a little Cajun food. I'm pretty excited about it. This is one of the first cuisines I ever learned. We're gonna make a little yellow rice, a shrimp etouffee, and a chicken Creole. The two sauces, the etouffee and the Creole, are very similar in spices and tomato. There's very few variations in some of the Cajun sauces. The Creole is a little more tomato based, where the etouffee is gonna have a little more stock, and we're gonna thicken it with roux, so it has a really silky texture. Again, everything's gonna be dairy free. They do a lot of butter down south, so we're gonna use our Smart Balance today to make a roux, and let's get going. First thing I'm gonna do is just chop up this celery pretty small. Sometimes I like to just cut some of the ribs in half. And then you can just keep going from the top. And I use all the celery. The leaves are great. They have great flavor. We get down to the heart. It's really tender, slightly sweeter. Get that little guy so it doesn't stick up anymore. So we have some celery, and we're gonna do some onions. Again, there's a number of ways to dice an onion, but this way I just find the easiest. I'll do the other one the other way. So I'm just gonna come through here. This one is for the etouffee. I'm gonna make everything pretty small. If you see any big pieces in your celery or anything, you could just go back through. This is called the Cajun Trinity. Again, we had talked about how in Indian cooking and French cooking, they all have a basic three, French being the classic mirepoix, onions, carrots, and celery, and then Indian cooking being garlic, ginger, and green chili. So here we go for that. We're gonna steal a little of this onion for our rice as well. We have our garlic done and green pepper. I'm gonna show you a little trick with the green pepper. You can see the ribs here. We're gonna come down the ribs. This first day the onions got me. Like that, and then these pieces just will pop right off from the center. And we can discard that. People were asking me while we were filming this, like, how do the onions not bother you? I don't know. They must have jinxed me, because today they're getting me. They say you can run an onion under cold water, and that will keep some of the gases from coming up and getting in your eyes. I just deal with it, it goes away eventually. So here we go with our green pepper. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to just get rolling here. All right, let's start with our rice, because we'll need it when everything else is done. Okay, for our rice, we're gonna use olive oil, a little oil, a little onion, tiny bit of garlic. I made some chicken stock to go into the rice. It's just going to add such a greater flavor profile to it. Taste your stock. Depending on how you make your stock or if you season it or not, you may not want to add salt to the rice. If the stock is soup strength, that means that the rice is going to be good to go, and it's going to have plenty of salt and flavor in it. And to that, we're going to add a little turmeric. That's what's going to make it yellow. It's going to be such a small amount. That was probably a quarter teaspoon, and it is going to make that rice really yellow. I'm going to add a tiny bit of paprika just for flavor. A bay leaf. So I'm not making that much rice. One bay leaf will do. A little oregano, and I'll add my rice. I'm going to do about 3 cups of stock. Let's clean up our mess before it dries out. I really don't think that people cook as much as they should, because they always feel like they're making a mess. You'll make a mess, it's fun sometimes, but it's also, you know, cleaning up isn't the best thing, so try to clean as you go. Try to work as neatly as possible. It'll make your cooking much more enjoyable. Fresh black pepper, And we'll move that to the back and get going on the next thing. All right, now the fun stuff. We pretty much have everything prepped for our shrimp etouffee. You can saute the shrimp and the vegetables in butter and then add a little bit of flour and kind of make a roux in there. You could get some clumping or whatever, but I'm just gonna show you how to make a roux on the side. You could stick it in the stove. You'd have probably more success, but you're gonna get it on really low. So let's have a little fun with roux. To make a roux, it's just fat and flour. You could use oil, you can use butter, you can use fake butter. This is more than we'll need, but to show you, I'm gonna have to make a little bit. That's close to a cup. You could stir your roux with a whisk. I'm gonna use a spoon because of the size of the pan so I can get in the corners, because as the flour and butter come together, it might burn around the edges. Put a little bit more in there, and I'll call that a whole cup. What else? We might as well just get prepping on some other things while we're waiting for that butter to melt. I'll show you the other way to cut an onion. Now you'll see this is the earth balance. This won't happen with oil or butter, but there's so much other things in a margarine or a fake butter. There's some water in there, so it's going to kind of want to boil out. The oil's going to float to the top, the water underneath is going to boil, and it's going to cause splattering. You could keep that covered, but we're so close to melting it right now, I don't think that's necessary. So here we go. Here's the other way to dice an onion. You're going to come down sides. We're going to cut this one a little bit bigger because it's for our Creole. You're going to come down the middle once or twice, and then you just come right off, and then everything's uniform. If it's a little stuck together on the back side, again, feel free to cut it one more time. Let's deal with this now before we burn ourselves. So there's a 1/4 cup to a cup. There's a 1/2 cup to a cup, 3/4, and we should be about 1 to 1 right now. Let's see what we're doing. And there you go. It came right together. See that? 1 cup of butter, 1 cup of flour. Now, with the Cajun roux, there are black roux, blonde roux, brown roux, depending on what you're cooking. Like if you're going to use make a gumbo and you want that rich brown color, we're going to really toast this roux. The butter will actually toast the flour and it'll get a nice color. I'm just going to use a nice blonde roux. We're going to keep this as it goes for our etouffee. They say hot roux, cold liquid. It won't stick. Cold roux, hot liquid. As I said, I'm just going to call that good. We're going to turn that off and move it to the side. And now we're going to start our shrimp etouffee. Finish these onions while that warms up. Do our other green pepper. That's ready to go. Again, as I said, you can use butter to saute everything or a little oil. So the trinity, the celery, the green pepper, the onion. Oil looks hot. Sure is. I'm going to get those going and get them nice and soft. Little salt, little pepper. Some people say add your salt and pepper at the end. My chef friends and I generally think for some reason it's important to get the salt in there while you're sauteing. Maybe the vegetables will absorb the salt, maybe they'll help drop some of the liquid, help soften them faster. It's just generally the consensus. Our rice is going back there. Again, once it's boiling, it's about 22 minutes, 24 minutes, and then you're gonna shut it off, let it just steam without opening it. All right, so our veggies are soft. We're in a tiny bit more olive oil. Got about probably just over a pound of shrimp here. Again, sometimes I make it, and it's also been served to me really fancy with the tails on, but then you got to pull the tails off. I bought these beautiful little Gulf shrimp. I figured that's appropriate for Cajun cuisine. So as we get the shrimp going, again, this is Cajun cooking. We're gonna do a little thyme. Ooh, maybe too much. a bay leaf or two. That thyme was probably a teaspoon. Some calls for celery seed. I've read recipes. I don't want to do that. A tiny bit of cumin. Tiny bit. We don't want to overpower it. We're trying to make a symphony here. You know, we don't want any solos. So oregano is important. That's probably a whole teaspoon. It's probably only a quarter teaspoon of thyme. Something real important is, I believe, is paprika. It gives that nice color. Probably going to go a whole tablespoon with that, but we're going to have some tomato as well. A little tiny bit of basil. Oh, and always, always, always black pepper. I'm a chef and I cook a lot, so I don't expect you to, but I always have my own shrimp stocks and chicken stocks that I'm making every day. These shrimp are pretty much done. Now you can adjust with liquid if you think you've got too much, but if I put the roux in there, when I have the liquid in there and the shrimp in there, I might not be able to get it smooth. So I'm going to take about half of this roux and I'm going to get it in there with my shrimp to see if I can get it to fully incorporate. It's about a cup to a quart of thickening. So with a cup of flour and a cup of oil, you're going to end up with almost 2 cups. This is looking pretty thick and pretty good. The tomato's going to have a thickening to it. And over here, I have my own shrimp stock. So I got a cup of roux in there. And I'm going to measure this out so you can see it. I've got hopefully, the roux incorporated around all the vegetables and stuff, so I couldn't have any lumps if I tried. What I do with my handy dandy measuring cup. 2 cups, 3 cups. So traditionally, it's going to call for some Tabasco. Again, it's a symphony. It's not a Tabasco dish. The reason why it's always going to have Tabasco or some Cajun hot sauce is A, because it's Cajun, and B, because there's vinegar in here and a little spice. So I'm going to do a little of that, but really, I have a friend who makes a peach cayenne sauce. It's not exactly Cajun, but it's got a little vinegar content. It's just a really quality sauce. I'll put a couple tablespoons in there. It's like perfect already. It's kind of so good already, it's kind of makes me, whew, I can't wait. This is one of my favorite dishes. I went to New Orleans for a catering conference and I just went around eating etouffee because I knew and I had it. I figured I had it pretty right. I had read books by Chef Paul Prudhomme, Chef John Besh. I followed their recipes, and then as a chef myself, I knew what I was doing. Again, I told you 1 cup of roux to 1 quart. I had about 3/4 cup of roux. I had 3 cups of stock, and it is literally exactly the texture I had wanted. So 1 cup to a quart, just so you know. Roux scares a lot of people. Again, if I had boiled the liquid and I'd thrown that big lump of roux in there, it might have just made little dumplings almost, and then we'd be super sad. All right, and then to that, not too much. If you could see it already, it is just a beautiful color. It's kind of like an orange. Whole tomatoes I ground this morning. That's about 1.5 cups of tomato. That's going to simmer. We're going to let that develop as well. Our next fun thing is Creole. Okay, now we're going to get to our chicken Creole. This one's going to be pretty fast. I got to tell you, I committed a cardinal sin in Cajun cooking. I forgot the garlic in the etouffee. So I'm just going to throw in a tablespoon now. It's better late than never. I was using 2 different sauces last time, and I think that you just, whatever one you have or a combination of anything, it's only a couple tablespoons for the quart of sauce that we're making. It's actually probably 2 quarts with all the vegetables, but yeah, about a tablespoon per quart. I don't want that to burn. You have to be very diligent about stirring things with roux in them because the flour will stick to the bottom. And if you've worked this hard and you're that excited about eating it, you want to make sure. Here we go. Pan has been heating up. A little olive oil. And I can see that it's done in the back, and as I told you, I'm just gonna, sometimes I blast it real quick to get the steam coming up. And before I burn it or anything, I'm just gonna shut it off. All right, now, Creole. Red and green bell peppers. onions, celery. It's a lot. So I'm going to show you the difference. This might even been too many vegetables. So we're going to have to invite some extra friends over. All right, we're going to get these going. They're going to cook right down. I think we're going to be fine. Tablespoon of garlic or so. Again, with the same spices. Not quite yet. I want these vegetables to get going. I'm going to cover them and let it soften up. Real quick, something I like to do is put my Cajun seasoning on my chicken. If I put my chicken in and simmer it the whole time, it's going to get overcooked. So I'm going to throw my basil, my cumin, about a teaspoon of each, oregano, throw the bay leaf. We'll save that inside since we're here. Some thyme. Should probably use cayenne pepper, but I don't have any at home. And then we're going to mix our chicken up here with oil, a little extra. Stir our Creole real fast. Oh yeah, we want those vegetables a little softer. Got our oil already in with our chicken. This is going to be great. You know, sometimes I look down. It's because even if I'm cooking on TV, I want everything to be perfect. I want it to taste perfect. It's just in my nature. I'm always making sure everything is evenly coated because I want you to see what I see, and then we'll go from there. All right, our pan over here should be hot. I put quite a bit of oil on here. I think we should still put a little extra in the pan. Just a little. Let's see how we do. Move our oil around a little bit. Spread our chicken out again, like some of the other things I did. I want to get a nice caramelization on there, so I'm just going to let them be. All right, this is going really well. Some Creole recipes call for roux, some don't. I think that I want to add just a little bit to it. I'm going to add just a couple tablespoons of roux, and I'll tell you why. It just has such a better texture if it just has that little bit, I don't know, it helps coat the spoon, coat your tongue sort of thing. So I'll stir that through because this is ready to go. Our chicken's working. I have a little bit of chicken stock left. Maybe I'll throw a little extra spice in there too. It's a flavorful dish, so we don't want to forget. Again, just like a teaspoon of each one is fine. It's starting to stick. Our chicken is almost blackening over here. Very similar to a blackening spice. Some of the Cajun herbs, the paprika, salt, white pepper, black pepper. White pepper adds a different, it's not black pepper at all. They're from the same family, but it's definitely different. I'm going to get the stock in here though before we burn this. And a little bit of water. White pepper is very, very strong. So I'm just going to add a teaspoon or so. Get that stirring around. I turned off our chicken because I don't want it to overcook. There are some pieces that still need some cooking, but I think they'll finish with the heat of the pan. All right. I think I must have forgot the paprika because there's no color in there. About a tablespoon of paprika. Again, peach cayenne, a couple tablespoons, doop doop, maybe one. And then this sauce is more of a tomato sauce. So where the other one was more of a stock with little tomato, this is a tomato with a little stock. That's about 3 cups, and I probably only had a cup of stock and a cup of water. It's beautiful. This thing is just gorgeous. You could see it's nice and red. Could be darker, we'll see. I can add some paprika to it just because I want that richness, and I think I'm just going to add a little more tomato. And we're going to let that simmer. Might as well use it all, huh? We're going to switch here. Turn this one off. Our shrimp's done. Oh, it's beautiful. The last thing we're gonna do with this etouffee is just check the seasoning. I tasted a number of times, it tasted really good. I think everyone could use some black pepper. A little stir, beautiful dish. Not too long, and I'll show you how we finish all these dishes in 1 minute. All right, now we're ready to finish all of our things here. So our etouffee, maybe just a little extra teaspoon of salt, not too much. I don't really taste the hot sauce, so I'm just gonna, like I said, I don't want to, but a little zip. The vinegar is gonna bring it up a little bit. Stir that through, let that simmer. Right now, gonna fluff our rice. I love the color of this. It's gonna be just amazing. So this is a perfect amount. This whole thing probably feed 8 people, honestly. But look at the rice. It just falls out. It's cooked right. That's because you let it rest in the pot. A little parsley garnish. A couple tomatoes. All right, now we're gonna turn on our chicken back on. I know our etouffee's ready. Move our rice over. Okay, now we got a little etouffee here. Look at that. I hear the chicken is telling me I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go. So I better get moving. Again, a little parsley, a little scallion. All right, chicken's ready to go. Our Creole back here tastes really good. As I said, it's more tomatoey than the other one. Get some vegetables in there, right in our chicken. So you can store this Creole sauce as it is, and you could add it to shrimp, chicken, lobster, anything. Oh boy. Things going on here. We'll let that simmer for a second. Get this out of the way so you can see what we're working with. Taste it. Oh, a little salt. There we go. Now that chicken isn't overcooked. It's got some herbs and spices on it. So this is the first thing I really learned to cook as a young chef. So I'm excited. I've been doing this for about 28 years. And I think it's just one of those dishes. You know why everyone's grandmother's better at cooking everything? Because she's been cooking the same thing for years, and she's been tweaking it in her mind. And it's just, look at that tomato. And you can add more chicken, less chicken. You could add eggplant. You can make it vegan. Again, a little parsley, a little scallion, a couple tomatoes, and those are some beautiful dishes. Now, let's make one little quick plate so you can see how the etouffee runs. So I'm just gonna take a little rice. Again, we could use the amateur first plating technique and use our measuring cup, or we can just get a couple spoons on here. I plate everything as if I'm gonna eat it. Sometimes I'm super neat, but the real important part is I always put too much on there because I eat a lot. All right. See how that runs? That's just the right thickness. We want a little more. And there you go. A little chicken Creole, a little shrimp etouffee, a little yellow rice. Everything is done. Let's get ready to eat this. Next time we'll be doing some flavors of Mexico. You can check us out and find the recipes on Instagram at Savory Cuisines Catering, or my Facebook at Bob Sargent. All right, thanks again for joining us. We're getting ready to eat all this wonderful food. Next time we'll be doing the fantastic flavors of Mexico. And if you want to find our recipes, they'll be on our Instagram at Savory Cuisines Catering. Thanks.